Hello, folks. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, when and wherever you are. All right. First thing is first. I am going to repeat something that I said in other videos, but I think it's important for people to understand this. Whenever you hear me referring to countries, I am referring to the way the government of said country acts and the majority of the people of that country, how they act. Okay? So, if you are, for example, in the United States and you are not a supporter of this entire situation that is happening, then don't feel personally offended. You might feel sad, you might feel ashamed for your country, legitimate, very legitimate for you to feel this way. I would, if I was in your place. You might have not voted for this, you might have not voted at all, or you might have voted in the other party. Okay, perfectly acceptable. Understand that when I talk about these things, I talk in a general sense. I'm not saying every American is like Mr. Trump. Okay, I'm not saying every British citizen is a Brexiter. Far from it. I had repeated this in other videos. I am going to repeat it again. But you also have to understand that when I talk about politics, as you can see, unless I'm doing a news watch when I'm covering news, I usually do this as a conversation. Okay? Like I always say also, I'm the guy next to you, okay? We are talking, we are at the cafe, we are having ourselves a cup of coffee, and we are having a conversation. Okay? This is how I want to make these videos. I have other types of videos, but this particular type of videos, this is how I do it. And I don't script it. I just consider what I want to talk about, what issue I want to address. I do my research, and then I'm here. Sometimes I might have a note or something like that. I have a second screen, but very rarely, unless I'm talking about numbers and figures in which I want to be 100% accurate. Other than that, what you see is what you get. It's the same thing as if you were sitting across from me and we were talking. I know I understand the irony because this is a monologue, me talking with a camera, okay? But this is how this interaction needs to be understood. Okay? Now, first thing is first. I hope you had a good Christmas, that you at least had some peace, some food in your table, and people that you loved near or in memory, because sometimes we know it's like that. Agora. This means now in Portuguese. Now, today I want to talk about something, and I think it's appropriate to talk about it, since we are going to celebrate 1 year of the new American regime in January. So, we're getting close to it. We have an entire year to analyze. So, today I'm going to talk about an issue that has not been very much analyzed by other YouTubers. They have talked about it, but I don't think they are reaching the point that I'm going to make in this video. Okay, some have talked about it, but only integrated in other issues. Now, today I'm going to talk with you about experts. What is an expert? An expert can be anyone that has specialized in any kind of job or occupation. So an expert can be an expert baker, an expert bricklayer, an expert economist, an expert lawyer, an expert scientist. Okay, any kind of expertise. When we are talking about expertise in economy, you have to think about it in this way. You cannot think that, like some Americans say, that the experts are the eggheads. Okay, the guys and girls that go to the university and get their degrees, and they don't work. They are just there to boss people around and tell people that they should, things like they should use a mask in order to avoid the propagation of diseases and all of these things. Okay, no, experts is everyone. Experts is Billy Bob that knows how to operate heavy machinery and that knows how to do forest work and whatever. Okay, expert is Juan that knows how to pick crops and how to tend to crops in the field. Everyone can be an expert in whatever area they choose, and everyone is important. Okay, because even with AI won't reach everywhere. Understand this. AI will change a couple of things, but look, it will change as electricity and mechanization have changed the way we work since the medieval ages. Okay, it will change, and it's normal, but that's a subject for another video. Let's continue now. So when you look at this in this perspective, imagine that Tom is a truck driver. He's working in the United States. He is hauling cargo from one place to another, and then Tom starts to get fewer and fewer work. Okay, he's losing money. He's not able to sustain himself or perhaps his family, and he knows that people are hiring, for example, in Canada. Just to give an example close to home. And Tom goes to Canada. He starts working there. He starts making his life there. Then the difficulties begin of transferring money into the United States, of the border crossings, of the issues with the American border police, the issues with Canadian society itself. And one day Tom just decides, okay, I'm going to stay here. He brings in his family. He applies for residence, probably because he's a nice guy. Okay, he's not a political guy. He just wants to work and make a living, and make a decent living for himself and his family, and he stays. Tom and his family will probably integrate into Canadian society. Okay, are you following me? Imagine another person that comes right here to Portugal. I see it on the news every day, almost every day, in the news or in social media, because in TV, in Portuguese TV, I rarely see anything more than news. Okay, I haven't really watched TV in many years. I prefer to go directly to the source and to see the news and see whatever. But let's continue. But I see it here every day. Lots of people happening the same. It started with people that either had a bloodline, for example, I don't know, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, or maybe even a spouse, or a father, or someone that had quick access to a residence here. And those people, look, if, for example, if your grandfather is Portuguese, I'm going to tell you this, and maybe some people won't like me very much for saying this because they are tired of you. But if, for example, imagine you have a Portuguese grandfather, or even a great grandfather. You get a birth certificate, a document that proves that. Okay, you go to the Portuguese embassy, and you ask for the process to begin for you to get your passport. It's that simple. And a lot of people did just that. And they had spouses, they had family, they asked for the residence. From the moment that they have their Portuguese dual nationality, they can ask it to their children too. Their spouses can get a permanent residence, and they can move here. This happened. With all of this shit in Venezuela, where you had thousands of Portuguese immigrants, I don't even know the real number, and people descendant of Portuguese nationals, when the crisis began in Venezuela, around 100,000 or more left the country. They came here. They came mainly to the island of Madeira, which is a part of Portugal. It's an autonomous region because we are divided democratically. And then a lot of them came to the mainland. A lot of them are here. I see them. We know who they are because they still have that little accent of Spanish. Many went to Spain, across Europe with a Portuguese passport, working in many places in Europe. And what I am fearing, and I think that is what the Portuguese government is also fearing, because as you may understand, this is a stress to the institutions, to the social institutions, to the hospitals, to residents, to jobs, to all of that, is that a similar thing happens with the Americans. And there is conservative numbers, almost 2 million Americans that are in those conditions, that they can ask for a Portuguese passport. 1 million for sure, probably around 2 million. And that might not be a lot to a country like the United States, but to a country that doesn't even have 11 million people inside of the borders and around 5 million immigrated in several places in Europe, that is a lot of stress. Really a lot of stress. And this is one of the reasons, not all of them, because this also had to do with other immigrant communities and other things that were happening. Okay, if you want to know more about it, I might make a dedicated video about it, but it's a very local thing, and you can obtain these news by just tuning into Portuguese news. RTP International, I think they have emissions in English too, so you can watch it. And that's Google Translate. But this is one of the reasons why the immigration policies here changed a lot. They're not impossible, but they are far more controlled right now, in order to remove the unnecessary stress from the services. For example, forcing you to get health insurance, which is not at all expensive. I talked with a person, an American, not going to divulge his name or his job, or if it's a he or a her, and he, let's just call him a he to be just for the sake of the dialogue, he was paying around, I don't know, 80 euros or something like that each 3 months, for 80 or 90 euros each 3 months for a health insurance. Okay, and he had access to everything that he needed, and of course if he feels bad he can go to the hospital, okay, and ask for treatment and pay the moderated taxes, which is how we call it, taxas moderadoras, which will be around, I don't know, less than 20 euros, okay, less than 20 euros. But continue. But this is the situation right now. Canada is already reporting this too. Canada, the countries that I have been hearing about, and I'm talking about inside of the EU. I don't know the numbers into the UK, but I also heard they have been high. There's been a high tax a high tax, for God's sakes, a high number of American citizens relocating to the United Kingdom. Okay, but in Europe, I've heard that the countries that have been suffering, I don't know suffering, but taking in most American immigration is Portugal, Spain, France, and Germany, and the Netherlands also a bit. Okay, and now I'm hearing about people going into the Czech Republic. Also, what was the other country that I heard? Switzerland. It's not in the EU, but I heard they are getting immigration, American immigration too. But it's a different kind of American immigration, those with. Mhm. And a couple of more countries. But let's continue, okay? Let me not get lost in my rant. So, what is happening is that the people that have the ability to produce, to earn, to have wealth, are the ones that are living. And then you also have those people that are, for example, retiring or that want to invest in a business, and those people are the other ones that are coming. So you are losing a source of income, meaning those people that are retiring, because you might say, oh, but they still have to pay taxes in the United States. Yes, of course, but they are not going to pay taxes on, for example, fuel, on food, on lodging, on property taxes. They are going to pay all of that here. Okay? And even the level of taxation in the United States will have to be lower if they choose to have a bipartite system of fiscal collecting. A very complicated way to tell you that in almost all countries you can choose to declare your taxes in the place, for example, where you are living or where your spouse is from. No, I know a guy that's married with a Japanese girl, and they declare their taxes here because it's much more profitable. It's much less. There's less taxation here than in Japan. This is an example. Okay, a very simple example of telling this. And there is also other options, like for example, declaring. Imagine this: the American retiree declares his taxes in the United States, and then he adds the expenses that he is having here in his tax deduction. So the amount of tax that the United States will be able to collect from that retiree person here will be highly reduced. Okay, look, these are simple things that almost no one thinks about, because you don't go to the bottom of things sometimes. Okay, and I understand that, because you are making a lot of these YouTubers, they are making a video, they are under a lot of pressure. But me, look, I'm not monetized. I do this in my spare time, okay, whenever I can, because I also do other things and other activities and other things in YouTube and etc. Doesn't matter. But when I look into this, I look into all of these aspects. And of course, I know there are people that are going to tell, oh, the United States government doesn't care about that. Okay. You will still have things like property tax and other things that those people have to pay, because you cannot be inside of the country without paying. And if you are not paying your taxes here, you have to pay it in another way. And even that will be ending. I'm certain of it, because with the new rules and policies that I've heard coming out of the EU, all of these regimes of exception will end. So you will find a lot of retirees paying I think it's almost 5,000 euros or $5,000 or something like that to to renounce paying taxes or whatever. It's so renounce citizenship of the United States or something like that. I don't know. I don't really know how much, but you will have a lot of people doing that. Why? Because a EU passport is a EU passport. You just have to go into your search engine and look up the strength of passports, and you will see it. Okay, you will see you have passports that sometimes might not be as powerful as the powerful in quotes or as the American passport, but that have enough for you to renounce it. Okay, and I know and I have heard about people that simply did that because they were tired of all the pressure, tired of all the silliness, and tired and simply wanting to make their living in another place that's a bit more sane, even with these issues, because nowhere is a paradise. Europe is no different. Okay, there isn't a country in Europe that is absolutely perfect, and we are all completely conscious about that. Okay, and you should not. And let me tell you this also: if you are considering leaving the United States, don't try to find an idea that you had the United States was. Don't try to find an American dream in other countries. Just try to find a place where you feel comfortable living, even with your issues, okay, even with the normal problems that you will have everywhere. Just try to find a place where you are comfortable living in, and where people at least treat you with decency. Please, this is what I would advise anyone. But now, getting back to the point. Right now, you are having this situation. You are having more and more experts, and remember that broad definition of experts that I told you, okay? Even a guy, an expert builder, okay, even a guy, a foreman in a building in a building company or something like that, or even a farmer, those people, they can be considered experts too. Understand that, but you have all of these people leaving. The first consequence that you are going to have is that you will not have these people in your labor market. But in a country with so many inhabitants, 350 something, I think, United States, millions, that won't be noticeable at first. It will be noticeable, especially in some more niche areas. But one leaves, there's another one to come in. Okay? At first, there won't be any issues. But now, in comes the effect of the current policies of the American government and of the nature of education and expertise in the United States itself. Education is painfully expensive in the United States. When I looked at the figures, I was dumbfounded, frankly. I know it varies a little, but it's impossible to understand that, okay? Because even here, there are countries where you pay some fees in the university if you have enough means to do it. Here in Portugal, there are fees that are completely affordable, in my view, and the only issue here is sometimes the price of housing, because you go to study into a city, and housing is always a bit expensive. Okay, always. But in terms of fees for attending university, they are not that expensive. Okay, they might. I know, and I'm going to get. If a Portuguese is reading this, they are going to kick my ass. But I know people would wish for our university system to not have any fees at all. Okay, me too, and I would also consider it to be adequate. But in the circumstances that we are living in our society, I don't know how they would be able to do it. But look, it's one of those things we are also still fighting here too for. Because you go, for example, to France and you don't have it. This is an example. But going back to the United States, you have that situation of it's very expensive to get an expert. Okay, it's very expensive to get a competent engineer, a competent teacher, a competent group of people that are the driving force behind the economy. And then you have the other effect, which is the immigration crackdown. And even if they start to do things like the United Kingdom was trying to do, and right now they are going to go back to Erasmus because it's not working, like visas for experts to come and whatever. Even if you try to do this, people will not go to a place where they feel they might be threatened. Look, imagine this. You are an expert engineer and someone tells you, yeah, well, you can come here to the United States and you have a 1 year's contract. Would you go? Even if the pay was good? I wouldn't. Because there would be no guarantees from this government that, for example, I was out with my passport and my documents, whatever, green card, having a coffee, and maybe because I look different or I act different, okay, I'm so pale that I would pass as a goddamn hillbilly, but you understand this, acting different, dressing differently, and some ICE idiot would just beat me, put me in a van, and take me off who knows where, and maybe steal my car, like they have done to immigrants, steal my stuff, go through my social media, go to... Do you think anyone wants to live in that situation? And if you come from a poor country, don't you think you perhaps would consider traveling to another, immigrating to another country that would give you more guarantees? For example, around here, when they need expert personnel that they have to hire in other countries, the person that comes here, okay, they have to have everything taken care of. The contract, place to stay, place to live, and all of that. Pay, everything completely defined by law. And a lot of people come here to work. 10 come in, maybe one stays, you understand? But people come here to work because there are guarantees, because there is social peace, because there is a method of doing things, because the government doesn't lie. Whatever government comes in, okay? If the government changes, the laws are still there, and to change the laws you have to discuss them in Parliament, and to discuss them in Parliament everyone has to know what is happening. In the United States you have just these arbitrary decisions by someone, and then you have the court saying, oh, you can't do that, and he does it anyway. He does whatever the hell he wants. He just bombed Nigeria, bloody Nigeria. And he said, I think he said something like he was defending the Christians, and he bombed a region where Muslims were attacking themselves. Meaning the man doesn't understand what the hell is happening in Nigeria. In Nigeria, about half the population is Christian and half of the population is Muslim. And within the Muslim groups itself, you have Boko Haram that is fighting other Muslims. This is basically very, 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 extremely, very simplified version of what is happening. And of course, sometimes they go into schools and they kidnap Christians, they kidnap Muslims, they kill Christians, they kill Muslims, because these are terrorist groups. These are people. This is a completely different reality of a black and white world in which these people seem to live in. Just like piracy that the United States is doing right now, piracying Venezuelan oil. These are all crimes. And you want someone, an expert or a scientist, to go into your country right now, and I'm talking right now, okay, because there are people that are already in your country, the United States, that might stay. Okay, there are people that have their roots there. They are married, they have children, maybe they are married with Americans, okay? They have a house payment, they have a job, they have a life in the United States, and those people, it will take a lot for them to come back to the countries where they are from. And if they are able to continue, if they are completely legal, some of them might even be already American citizens, they will stay. So I'm not talking about some kind of mythical mass exodus. I'm talking about very particular things, very particular phenomena that no one seems to be talking about in the United States themselves. They talk about it sometimes, but they talk about it like they talk about anything, without any kind of depthness to it, without considering the consequences. So now I can explain you my point. You have experts leaving, okay, and you have the number of people with expertise decreasing. This is going to have an effect on the economy. Maybe they will have policies like, for example, I don't know, reducing student debt, student loans, whatever, or maybe issue visas for workers, do whatever. But that won't solve, that will not solve that synergetic relation between all of these factors that existed before. Because if the factors falter, you cannot have the process, the synergy. You understand? The synergy, the conjugation of many things, to be simple. And I think the United States is going to reach a point in which things, some things at least, will simply stop working. This might happen. Already this government has cut the budget. Basically, they cut the budget of everything except the army and the border police. This is the situation, okay? They cut the budget of the parks, the national parks. So, less protection for the national parks, less tourism, less income from tourists, less movement for the local communities, less business for the local communities. If you are in one of those local communities, you know I'm talking about something that I know, because I also worked in a I grew up and worked in a business, bakeries, that also relied heavily on tourism and restoration, restaurants, cafes, all of that. And you know that if you have less bodies on the streets, like we say, less people walking around, going into the camping parks, the beaches, the tourist places, the restaurants and all cafes and all of that. If you have less people walking around in those areas, you will make less money because you will sell less, and if you sell less, you won't be able to have as many employees, and if you sell less, you won't be able to pay as many taxes, and if you have less profit, your own personal profit of the business will decrease, and you will consider if you should continue with that business, or move elsewhere, or do something else. It's all connected. I always say this: economy doesn't know morals, and economy is bloody simple. It's simple. It's not complicated. Okay, we may, if we go into things like micro economy at the local level, they are very simple. Only when you reach the level of macroeconomy, when you have to consider a lot of factors, only then it becomes a bit more complicated. And even so, it's not that complicated. If someone sits down with you and talks with you and explains it to you, like they did to me, like I said, I didn't finish my degree, okay, but I do have 3 years of it, so I understand a bit about it, so to speak, and I learned it in practical terms, okay. Let's continue. But all of these factors, what I'm trying to tell you is this: the United States is emptying itself of the people that they need to progress their economy. And if anyone thinks AI is going to solve all of these issues, then they are sadly mistaken. Sorry, I just had to cough. And as I was saying, all of these are a type of events and phenomena that they are going to pile up on your economy. Meaning, just like Brexit was for the United Kingdom, it's not a single event. It's an event that grows as time goes by. Right now you are seeing the UK regressing in some of the things that they did with Brexit. Erasmus is just an example. Okay, there will be many more. And if the United Kingdom had a more brave government, a lot of these issues would already be solved. But that is a subject for a separate video or stream. Because if you work like I do, you know that you train a lot of people on the job. Okay? If you teach someone to fry potatoes, okay, I'm just giving an example, or fry hamburgers, that person will be able to fry potatoes quicker and better. You are going to train that person. You are going to teach him how to do things. You are going to teach him methods of work, because you yourself have the expertise and the experience to teach that person to work. If you that factor is removed, okay, if you go to work somewhere else, if you immigrate, there won't be anyone left to teach that person. They will learn, but they will learn with experience. And while they are learning, the business is suffering. And to a country that says they are so capitalistic, that they are so business savvy, to do this type of things, and a president that proclaims he's the master of the deal, that what you are doing is telling me you don't know what the hell you are talking about, or what the hell you are doing. Even you Americans, and I have talked about this in another video, consider this. You are paying taxes, okay? You are paying taxes. You know you pay them. You pay them at the grocery shop. In some states you have it, in other states you don't. You pay property tax, You pay taxes on your car, you pay taxes on your fuel. Granted, your fuel is cheaper, but we all know why. Okay? You have taxes on everything. And yet, you have to purchase healthcare, healthcare insurance. You have to pay for everything. Around here, if you are a business, if you have a business and you have your monthly income, or if you work for someone like me, or some company like me, or some entity like me, if you work for someone, every month in my pay, it's already docked a percentage that goes into my pension, that goes into my healthcare, and into all of that. Meaning, when you go and work to someone or some entity or whatever, you already know. For example, if they tell you you are going to get monthly, you are going to earn. They even have this expression, limpos, clean, which means, for example, someone will tell you are going to get I don't know, 1,000 euros a month clean. This means that is what you are going to take home at the end of the month. They are already excluding all of those percentages that both you and the employer have to pay into these entities: the healthcare, the taxes, and the social care. Okay? This is why when Americans say healthcare is free in Europe, I get pissed. It's not free. We pay for it. The difference here is, if I'm paying for healthcare, I'm only going to have a health insurance for some things that I want it to be quicker. For example, I don't want to wait for the NHS. I want to have a quicker dental insurance, okay? Or for example, if you work for a state entity and you have a union, or even if you work for a private entity and you have a union, unions have agreements with clinics, with dental clinics, okay, with doctors, with glass doctors, okay. All of this, you understand, and it's quicker, okay. So you pay in for that, or you pay in for the union, and it's all included in your union fees and whatever. And it's a complement to the healthcare that you already have. But the issue here is this, okay? You won't pay $5,000 for a bloody ambulance. If it's an emergency, you won't pay anything, okay? Unless it's proven that you were negligent, okay, or that you did something wrong, so they are going to charge you. And even if they charge you, I don't know, it will be, look, the last time I paid for an ambulance, for a transportation, for a family member, I think it was around 10 euros to take them from South Portugal to Lisbon. So, a long distance. Around 200 kilometers or something like that, okay? One trip, okay? I mean, so 400 kilometers in total. It's affordable, okay? And if you are in an emergency situation, of course you are not going to pay. You are already paying for your taxes. And even if you are a bum and you cannot pay for taxes, and you cannot pay taxes to pay in for healthcare, we are also going to take care of you. And even if you are old and you are no longer working and you are retired, then we are really going to pay for it, and you are not going to pay for anything, because it's all in the taxes that you pay to your state. It's in our constitution that we have the right of education and healthcare. And yet I continue to see I see people in these comments, I have had people in these comments that are so stupid that they say that the United States has been paying for our healthcare. You want to know which is the only country that is receiving American money that goes into their healthcare system, that is paid by you, the American taxpayer? You want to know? Israel. I'm stating a fact. Fact check me, please. Fact check me. Go and see and read and understand why this happens. Again, Americans, you want rights? I'll tell you what I have told you in other videos. Fight for them, as we do. I went on strike this month. I'm fighting for my rights and for the rights of my family and of my countrymen. Countryfolk. Okay? But, again, I think this is a factor, that we all should be very attentive to. Because as more experts leave and less experts come into the country and less experts are educated inside of the country, the American economy is going to reach a point in which it will break. And AI is not happening. It's not helping it. AI will burst. Just like the computer bubble in the 80s or 90s, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. This is a bubble that's also going to burst, because the United States is still using the model of older AI systems, data centers and all of that, while Europe, while Asia, China mainly, are progressing to more, I will say this because it's the truth, economically viable models of AI systems. Okay? And I'm not saying this will happen in the blink of an eye, but it can happen. You can, because these things are so volatile, because they can either take a long time to happen, or suddenly there is some kind of issue within the economy, within the business, the market itself, and it simply crashes down. Imagine you have an energy crisis. This is a simple way of seeing it. Where do you get most of your energy from? The neighbors up north that your president continues to insult and threatening to attack? And even if he was stupid enough to do that, to invade Canada, do you think that would solve your energy crisis? Or would it make it even worse? Look at what he's doing in Venezuela. And then I go into some sides of Democrats, and they are speaking some truth. And then I hear them not talking about it. I hear them not addressing these subjects, and then saying things like, for example, talking about the AfD. This one really pissed me off. Talking about the AfD in Germany, that they are being paid for Putin and whatever, because they saw in the news that a couple of responsible people in the AfD are being investigated for spying for the Russians. And me, that speaks German, ich verstande Deutsch. Okay? Ich bin halber Deutsch und ich habe Deutsch gelernt mit meinem Großvater und ich habe gesprochen Deutsch mit meinem Großvater vor vielen Jahren. Okay, so I understand the bloody language. My vocabulary and my enunciation might be a bit atrocious because I haven't spoken it in a long time, but I do understand it. Je parle aussi au français, je le comprends toujours. C'est pas, le français c'est plus facile pour moi pour comprendre que l'allemand. Alright? Io parlo italiano, non è molto difficile. Y claro que hablo castellano también, muy similar al portugués. Okay? When I listen to the news, my friends, I like to listen to it, even if sometimes I put subtitles to help me with one word or another, because especially in German, sometimes my vocabulary falters, because it's completely different from you growing up speaking the language daily with someone, okay, and then maybe be months, sometimes even I went through at least 1 year without speaking it, and it's very different, okay, but nonetheless you still understand it, you still understand exactly what I'm saying. And I watch German news, and I watch these people talking, and then they don't know something as simple as this: the Portuguese constitution and the German constitution are some of the only ones in Europe that have a specific article in their constitution banning the existence of fascist regimes, and also, by application of law at large, of any form of authoritarian regime. So this will include, in legal terms, it includes all kinds of authoritarian regimes. They can claim to be right-wing or they can claim to be left-wing, but it's the same in terms for the law, for the application of law, which I also know about and have worked in for more than 20 years. But I'm not a lawyer, I assure you. Okay? And they continue to talk about this like if it was something very unusual. But no, these people are being investigated and perhaps will be trialed for spying. The AFD itself, okay, has its existence endangered by the nature of the denomination that they give to their countries, to their party. It's just like here. For example, here you can call a party or a movement nacional, which means national. For example, the national party of this or that. But if you call yourself the nationalistic party of the blah blah blah, that's a fascist expression. You cannot do that. You cannot use fascist symbols, a swastika, and in the case of Portugal, specific symbols related to the former authoritarian regime. These things are all in the law. And what Germany is doing is applying the law. The institutions in Germany, they are working, they are functioning. Just like when I see these same Democrat YouTubers talking about the issues in France, or talking about the issues in Portugal, because the two governments fell recently. And they have absolutely no clue about what they're talking about, because this is not the United States. We don't go into shutdowns. Every time the government here fell, things continued to work. People continued to get paid. Everything continued normal. The only difference was that, for example, they could not issue public procurement to start. If it was already in contract, it continued as usual. For example, the state gives out contracts, public procurement, for acquiring weapons, for example, for building roads, okay, for, I don't know, for making buildings, for fixing things, for providing for security personnel for public buildings like courts and etc. Okay, it's absolutely normal. All of these things continued. The only issue was they did not give new ones. That government could not do that. Okay, but everything else continues to work. If you go to Germany, it's the same thing. If you go to France, it's the same thing. We have people in the United States talking about European governments and democracies, and they have absolutely no idea what the fuck they are talking about. And it surprised me, it really surprised me, to listen to people that apparently, and I will not quote names, okay, I will not quote names, because that is not my function, and of course I refuse to damage the reputation of anyone because of that, okay, I refuse that. That is not my part. People have to go there, listen to it, and then make up their own minds. It's not me that's going to tell you this. But it surprised me to see how little they know about it. They constantly talk about the oligarchs and whatever in Europe that are working with the oligarchs in America and this and that, and they don't know what the fuck they are talking about. The rich fuckers that we have around here in Europe, they fucking hate the rich fuckers in America because they are damaging their business. And the rich idiots that we have here know that we have governments that will find them, that will jail them, and that will end their business. So they want business to run smoothly. So they play ball. They do whatever the government wants so that they can continue to profit, to have their money and their lifestyles. And if you think we don't have that type of people around here, then you are very naive. Of course we do. Of course we do. Every society has those damn parasites. I call them parasites. Only half of them do an important role in society. The other half, parasites. Okay? But as long as they pay their taxes and they stay in their little corner of the world, I could care less. Okay? Because I have more important things to think about than what the fuck rich people are doing. But again, and I ranted away from the subject. Again, sorry. What you have to take from this video is this. There will be a crisis in the United States related to this. They can avoid it. If they stop these policies, if they cut student loans and all of that, if they do that, they might be able to do it. So it's not impossible to avoid these things from happening. But what I'm seeing right now is that they are just making it worse. And suppose that you are able to somehow, I don't know, get rid of this current government and elect a Democrat or whatever. How much time you think it would take to revert all of this? And do you think, for example, the tourists from Canada, they will return to the United States? They will magically trade the houses that they have bought in Mexico, in Spain, in Portugal, for example, and other places, the houses that they have paid and the visas that they have insured to be able to spend 6, 7, 8 months or more in the sun or in the fairer weather. What, you think they are going to magically sell those houses and leave those visas alone to return to the United States? Will they? Will the Canadian shoppers suddenly start buying American bourbon again, and the distilleries will open magically again and start doing business again? Do you think all of that will happen? Anyone that comes after him, if it's a decent person, which I doubt, sincerely, I'm being sincere, okay? Call me pessimistic, but I call myself pragmatic. Okay, I always look at the worst side of things, and I'm not being negative. Okay, I just try. Look, as you can see, sometimes I get emotional too. All right, but I just try, and I'm not bloody perfect, but I just try to look at things from all perspectives. But think about things. Okay, if something because if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And this is not being negative. This is not like some people say, calling the bad to happen. No, not at all. I wish for the better. I wish for things to go smoothly, but I also know that the risk is there and that I have to be prepared for it. And if I'm prepared for the risk, it's much better for me to be prepared. And do you think this tourism will return? Do you think China will start buying all of the crops in the United States again? Do you think the European tourists will return to the USA? Do you think Europe will suddenly start buying American debt again instead of secretly dumping it and retaining only the amount necessary to keep the United States in check? Or perhaps Europe will buy even more American debt and then tell them like they told right now, play ball or we are going to dump your debt. Do you think all this will change? And this is if things like NATO and a couple of economic relations survive the end of the term of this president. If they survive it, and I am not seeing it getting better. I'm seeing him applying more and more blackmail over Ukraine. I see him bombing another country. I see them stealing oil tankers in the sea. I continue to listen to stories of people disappearing into ice dungeons. No one knows where they go. No one ever hears about them again. I continue to listen to all of those stories, and they are not AI, they are not bots. Because if I see, for example, news about something happen, I'm not just going to watch that source. I'm going to watch multiple sources of the same news to understand what is happening. Because this is how you research things. At least I learned this in school. In school, for God's sakes. So anyone that tells me they don't know how to do this, well, then you are not doing any kind of research, because looking at something in social media, that's not research. Okay? That is looking into things. Then you have to get that information and try to see it in other sources. The more, the merrier. And try to see where the truth lies. But subject for another video. But again, I think we should all keep an eye on this, and keep an eye on things like, for example, the number of doctors. These are the areas that are first affected. Doctors, nurses, specialized personnel like the ones that are leaving the United States, air traffic controllers, and going to Australia, for example. I've heard of at least one that came here. Also look at companies removing their operations from the United States and relocating to other countries. Key sectors like car manufacturing, arms manufacturing, Okay, all of the and and look at business and see, for example, if some companies are leaving the American stock market, if they are transferring their operations to other countries or other market cities, for example, going to the city in London or going into Paris or the Netherlands, or okay, Paris in France or the Amsterdam in the Netherlands or whatever, or Asia, Japan, China. Just see if they are relocating their business, because that is one of the first signs. And then see, pardon me, also if you start to see services failing, okay, things that demand a bit more of expertise, like for example energy, water, sewers. Yes, sewers are a very important part of our economy. You need to have them working properly. If you start to see things faltering in these in key areas, if it's something that is apparent that you can see, you have issues. And I would say prepare. Okay, and for example, if you start to see less cargo trucks going around, if you start to see more shops closing, even if you are conscious that they have business, but if they start closing anywhere, or for example if they have 2 or 3 locations in your city and suddenly they just have one, these are all signs. Okay, these are all signs of economical issues. And don't think AI was going to solve this, for God's sakes. Please don't think that, okay? Please don't think that, because AI right now, people look, right now AI is being used for toys. When they really start to use it, then you will see the effect on the economy. Right now, the only thing AI is doing, at least in the United States, is draining energy and resources. And they are betting constantly that one day they are doing this. Okay, oh, they need more, they need $1 million more. Okay, pay them. They are going to give us 10 millions in the future. They need another million. Okay, they are going to give me 20 millions in the future. Here you go. This is what they are doing. But imagine that the bubble crashes. All those millions are gone. And the company either goes somewhere else, goes to invest in something else, or it dissipates itself. It ceases to exist. And this is the real risk that I don't see anyone talking about. I see the Democrats approaching the subject, but then they lean back in the GDP. And I keep saying to these two people, the GDP is not some kind of holy grail that says that your economy is great. The UK has a great GDP. I think they are in the 6th place in the world, or they were. I don't know. I don't know in what place they are, because India went has moved up from them, or something like that. I really don't know, because as I told you, it's not an economic indicator that I consider relevant. It's relevant because it tells you how many people have a lot of money in your country. But if you have piss poor people in your country, and then you have obscene wealthy people in your country, what is the influence of GDP in your life there? What? Your dollar is a bit more stronger? Well, the dollar has been continuously decreasing its value. And it doesn't seem like maybe it will stabilize in the current numbers. Maybe. But as for going up again, for the dollar to go up again, you have to start to produce more. And even if Mr. Trump put someone in the Federal Reserve that will do his bidding, it won't solve this issue, because you will have inflation or deflation. Okay, it will not solve this subject, because, and one more thing, and I heard this in the news today. People, experts all over the world and countries, they are highly they are highly suspicious of the numbers that the US government is putting out. Meaning they are not trusting in them, because they have their own indicators, and their own indicators tell them a different story of what is happening. And if the United States thinks this will work for them, well, just look at Russia. Everything is fine and dandy in Russia. Russia actually has a great GDP. It's all fine and dandy. Do you get my irony, or do I have to be more clear and tell you that they are bloody lying? Because it's very easy to mask numbers, okay? You just push a knob here, push a knob there, and it's all fine and dandy. But then, when you go down to it, and you go to see exactly what is happening, and when shit hits the fan, then you see the true state of the economy. And this is something a lot of you should be attentive to, especially anyone that has a business in the United States. But subject for another stream or video. Well, I hope you all stay safe. Another video, okay? As I said before, I'm going to try to record a couple of videos and talk when it's relevant. I also have a news watch to make. I'm still considering what I'm going to talk about in the news watch. This is why it's taking a bit longer. But today I just decided to make this video. I'm recording it Friday at night. It's a bit late now. I'm going to publish it tomorrow, Saturday, okay? And, well, that is it. All the news from me. Okay? Now, stay safe. And if you have the opportunity, please look into this. I'm even interested if, for example, someone in Canada has any source that they can share in immigration or something like that, so that we can actually see how many people are immigrating to Canada from the United States. That will be very interesting, because Canada and Mexico, they are always going to be the main destinies for immigration, because they are the closest one. Okay, it's the easiest solution. Okay, it's easier to immigrate to Canada or to Mexico than to immigrate to Europe across the world. Okay, or to Australia, for example, or to the UK, or to the EU, to separate the two areas. But anyhow, that's for another video. So, folks, stay safe. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and I don't know, enjoy your weekend.